There is a mystery woven into the fabric of creation, hidden not in the stars or in the mountains, but in the soul of man. It is this: what happens within will always determine what happens without. The greatest wars are not fought on battlefields, but in the unseen chambers of the heart. The truest victories are not shouted through microphones, but whispered in silence between a soul and its creator. And so it is written into the rhythm of life, inner alignment precedes outer power. A man may move nations, yet if he is fractured within, he will crumble beneath the very weight of his influence. A woman may rise to heights unseen, but if her heart is out of order, her climb will become her collapse. The world chases power, but forgets that true power does not begin on the outside. It is not built with hands, nor shaped by crowds. It begins in the quiet, in the stillness, in the sacred solitude, where the soul is forged in fire and the spirit is refined like gold. You see, power without alignment is like a storm without direction, loud, wild, destructive. But when a soul comes into alignment with truth, with purpose, with heaven itself, then its power becomes focused like a flame that does not burn wildly but illuminates the darkness. That kind of power is not given to those who seek the spotlight, but to those who first seek the secret place. There is a time to speak, yes, but there is first a time to listen. There is a time to act, but first a time to be still. There is a time to lead, but first a time to surrender. In the stillness, your heart is revealed. In the silence, your motives are exposed. And only when you face the truth within can you carry the truth beyond. This is the way of kings and prophets, of saints and soldiers of the Spirit. Moses did not lead until he wandered the wilderness. David did not rule until he sat with sheep and sang to the heavens. The Christ did not preach until he had fasted 40 days and faced the wilderness of the soul. The power came not from the throne, but from the alignment with the will of the Father. What is alignment? It is agreement. It is unity between who you are on the inside and what you do on the outside. It is not perfection, but harmony. It is when your mind, your heart, and your spirit begin to move as one under the direction of heaven. And when that alignment comes, your words gain weight, your actions carry authority, and your steps become guided not by impulse, but by destiny. But to find that alignment, you must go inward, not to hide, but to be refined. You must step away from the noise, from the opinions, from the expectations that pull you in every direction. You must walk into the quiet, where the only voice is the one that formed you in the womb. And there in the silence you will begin to see. See the false things that have clung to you like shadows. See the fears that have directed your steps. See the pride that has disguised itself as confidence. And in seeing, you are set free. The world tells you to push harder, speak louder, run faster. But heaven whispers, be still. No, align, because a misaligned soul can achieve much, but it will come at the cost of peace, of purpose, of destiny. But a soul aligned with its calling, with its Creator, with eternal truth, that soul cannot be stopped. Have you ever felt the tension between who you show the world and who you are in secret? Have you ever spoken words that your heart did not believe? Worn smiles that your spirit could not carry? That is the fracture. That is the disconnect between outer image and inner truth. And if you live there too long, it will break you. But when you focus not on building the image, but on healing the heart, then the power will come, not as a wave that crashes, but as a river that flows with peace. The world is watching, but heaven is waiting for a people not who appear strong, but who are strong because they have been emptied of falsehood and filled with fire. Waiting for those who will not just do the right things, but become the right vessels. Not just echoing truth, but embodying it. And that begins with alignment. So focus on yourself, not in pride, but in pursuit. Shut the door. Turn down the volume of the world. Stop looking to others for permission to be who you were created to be. Return to the secret place. Let the Spirit examine you, cleanse you, restore you. Let Him remove what was never yours to carry. Let Him awaken what has been sleeping. Let Him breathe into the places you forgot existed. And then only then rise. When the inner is whole, the outer will follow. When the foundation is deep, the building can rise. When the roots are strong, the fruit will be abundant. And when your soul is aligned with heaven, your life will be marked by a power not your own. You will walk through storms and not be shaken. You will face battles and not be broken. You will speak and heaven will move, not because of volume, but because of alignment. Your silence will carry authority. Your presence will shift atmospheres, not because you sought to be powerful, but because you dared to be aligned. That is the mystery. That is the key. That is the path of those who change the world, not by shouting above the noise, but by walking with heaven in silence. The world may not notice the shift at first, but heaven will, and when heaven moves in you, all of creation will feel the tremble. So begin again. Go within. Make peace with your past. Surrender your masks. Realign with truth. And when your heart beats once more with eternity, then you will rise, not as an echo, but as a voice. Not as a shadow, but as a flame. Not in your own strength, but in the unstoppable power of the aligned and the awakened. There is a power in silence that the world has long forgotten. In the age of noise, of endless opinions and hollow proclamations, the sacred sound of silence has become a rarity. Yet from the beginning, it was never noise that moved the heavens. It was silence. Before the first word was spoken, before light was called forth, there was stillness hovering over the deep. And from that silence came creation itself. Silence is not weakness. It is not emptiness. It is not the absence of voice. It is the presence of restraint. It is the decision to hold your tongue while the world shouts, to remain still when everything in you wants to react. It is not retreat. It is strategy. A sacred strategy. One known by the wise, practiced by the prophets, embraced by those who have touched the deep things of God. For silence is not passive. It is not a void. It is not the lack of movement. It is preparation. It is the drawing back of the arrow before the release. It is the inhaling of breath before the shout of war. It is the quiet of the womb before the child is born. It is the hush of twilight before the dawn breaks forth in glory. Those who walk with heaven know that not every battle is fought with words. Not every accusation demands a defense. Not every storm requires a voice to silence it. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay still, to say nothing, to hold the line in silence while heaven fights for you. There are moments when you will be misunderstood. Moments when lies will be spoken, when your name will be dragged through the mud, when your motives will be questioned. And everything in you will want to rise and defend, to set the record straight, to speak in your own defense. But the Spirit will whisper, wait, say nothing, for the truth does not need to scream. It does not need to fight to be seen. It only needs time. And in the stillness, truth rises like the morning sun, undeniable, radiant, unstoppable. Do you not see it in the lives of those who came before? The one who stood before the rulers of earth, accused of blasphemy, of rebellion, of lies, and yet he opened not his mouth. Not out of fear, but out of power. Not out of defeat, but because he knew the victory was already written. His silence was not surrender, it was sovereignty. And from that silence came salvation. There is a silence that disarms the enemy, a silence that confuses the accuser, a silence that stills the storm, not by shouting at the waves, but by being the calm in the chaos. When the enemy expects reaction, silence is rebellion. When the world demands performance, silence is warfare. When everyone else is moved by fear, silence is the stand of faith. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to convince others of your calling. You don't need to respond to every critic, explain every decision, or shout every dream from the rooftop. There is a time to speak, yes, but there is first a time to be silent, a time to wait, a time to let heaven shape your words so that when you do speak, your voice carries weight, not wind. The sacred ones, the ones who carried fire and glory, were often the ones who lived in silence. In caves and deserts, in wildernesses far from the applause of men. They did not rise through noise, but through quiet obedience, through stillness before God, through letting the fire burn within before ever letting the word be spoken aloud. And you who long to be used, who ache for purpose, who are weary from the noise, hear this. Your silence is not in vain. Your quiet seasons are not wasted. Your hidden prayers are not ignored. What is forged in silence will one day thunder across the earth. What is built in secret will one day shake the nations. Do not despise your silent moments. Do not curse the quiet path. For the seed does not grow on the surface, it breaks in the dark. The diamond is not formed in daylight, it is pressed in silence. The oil does not flow from noise, it is crushed in stillness. And the anointing that changes lives is not born in the clamor of men, but in the secret chambers of God. The enemy will try to provoke you, to get you to speak prematurely, to move before the time, to react instead of respond. But silence is your shield. Silence is your sanctuary. Silence is the place where you are filled so that you do not speak from emptiness, but from overflow. And when the time comes to speak, you will not speak out of fear. You will not speak out of anger. You will speak with authority, because your silence prepared the way. Your stillness rooted your soul, and your restraint gave birth to revelation. Let the world misunderstand you. Let the doubters doubt. Let the scoffers scoff. You don't need to speak to be seen. You don't need to shout to be heard by heaven. Walk quietly. Stand firmly. Stay rooted. Let your life speak louder than your lips. There is a voice in your silence, a voice that speaks without words. It says, I am unshaken. I am not moved by storms. I am not ruled by the crowd. I am aligned with something greater. I know who I am. I know who holds me. And I will not be provoked into noise when heaven has called me to stillness. In that silence, you will hear things the world cannot hear. You will sense the shift before it comes. You will feel the wind change. You will see the signs that go unnoticed by others. Because silence opens the ears of the Spirit. It sharpens your sight. It prepares your feet. And then when the appointed moment comes, your voice will come forth not like a whisper, but like a trumpet, like the sound of many waters, like a sword unsheathed from silence. And it will cut through confusion. It will shatter deception. It will carry the authority of one who has walked with God. So do not rush to speak. Do not run to explain. Do not let the world pull you from your place of peace. Hold your ground. Guard your spirit. Stay silent when silence is sacred, and let that silence become your strength, your strategy, your secret place of power. For what is born in silence will echo through eternity. There is a mystery hidden in the stillness, a truth that the world cannot grasp because it moves too fast to hear the whisper. The greatest changes, the most profound awakenings, the true transformations do not come with fanfare or flash. They come in the quiet. They are born in the moments that seem invisible, unnoticed by the crowd, unseen by the eye, but felt deeply in the soul. The world applauds the spectacle. It looks for the explosion, the miracle on display, the sudden breakthrough. But heaven works differently. The Spirit moves not only in fire and wind, but in the silence after the fire has passed, in the still small voice that follows the shaking. Transformation doesn't always happen in the roar, it happens in the hush. In the quiet places where no eyes are watching, no applause is waiting, and no spotlight shines. Have you ever been in that quiet place? That season where everything seems to pause, where nothing outward seems to be changing, yet inside something deeper than words is happening. That is the holy ground of transformation. It's not a pause, it's a preparation. Not a void, but a vault where the treasures of your becoming are being shaped in secret. The seed must go down into the earth before it rises, in the dark, in the quiet, hidden from all. There it breaks not in death, but in rebirth. The caterpillar does not become a butterfly in the wind, but in the cocoon, wrapped in stillness, wrapped in silence. And though it looks like nothing is happening, everything is. The old is unraveling, the new is forming, and the transformation is so complete that when the wings emerge, there is no trace of what once was. So it is with you. You may feel like nothing is moving, like you're stuck, like you're hidden. But perhaps you're not stuck, you're being still. Perhaps you're not forgotten, you're being formed. Perhaps this is not the end, it's the cocoon. The sacred chamber where heaven rewrites your identity, rebuilds your strength, and restores your soul. The quiet is not the enemy. It is the ally of the anointing. It is in the quiet that tears fall without restraint. It is in the quiet that prayers rise unfiltered. It is in the quiet that your true self is revealed and all the masks fall away. And when you finally stop performing, stop striving, stop speaking just to be heard there, in that surrender, God begins the deepest work. The noise of the world may say, "Do more, speak louder, move faster." But the voice of the Spirit says, "Come away, be still, let me do what only I can do." For what is rushed is rarely refined, and what is loud is often empty. But what is forged in quiet becomes unshakable. Look through the pages of time. Joseph was transformed in the silence of the prison cell. Moses in the quiet of the desert, Elijah in the cave, Ruth in the stillness of faithfulness, Esther in the secrecy of the palace, and the Messiah himself in the silence of 30 hidden years before the first miracle was ever seen. The power did not come from what they did in public, but from what God did in them when no one was watching. Transformation is not about changing what you do. It's about changing who you are. And that kind of change cannot be forced. It cannot be faked. It cannot be fast. It is slow. It is sacred. It is the kind of change that is deep enough to reach the roots, to heal the wounds, to break the chains you've carried for years. And only silence can carry that kind of weight. There is a hush that heaven waits for, a silence of surrender, a stillness of trust, where your striving ceases and your spirit opens, where the questions still echo, but you no longer need answers to believe, where you don't see the way forward, but you know the one who leads you. In that place, your identity is not shaped by your past, but by His presence. Your worth is not determined by your work, but by His love. Your future is not driven by fear, but drawn by grace. You emerge not with applause, but with authority, not with noise, but with knowing. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently, not because you were taught, but because you were transformed. Not because you tried harder, but because you let go. Not because of information, but because of revelation born in the silence. So do not despise the quiet. Do not run from the stillness. Do not fear the seasons when it seems like nothing is happening. That is where the roots are growing. That is where the oil is being pressed. That is where the fire is being kindled, not a wildfire that burns out, but an eternal flame that endures. The world may not see it. They may not understand your silence. They may think you've lost momentum. But heaven knows. Heaven sees the work done in secret. Heaven honors the altar built in the wilderness. And when the time is fulfilled, what has been transformed in the quiet will thunder into the open with a glory that cannot be denied. You will rise not as a shadow of what was, but as a sign of what is possible. You will carry not just words, but weight, not just vision, but victory, because you allowed the quiet to do what noise never could transform you. So rest in the silence. Let it do its holy work. Let it strip away the false, the frantic, the fear-filled. Let it remind you that your value is not in your performance, but in your presence with the one who made you. Let it draw you deeper, root you stronger, heal you more fully than any man's words ever could. And when you walk out of the quiet, you will not be the same. The world may see the change and wonder how it came, but you will know it happened in the stillness, in the surrender, in the sacred quiet where heaven met your soul and wrote a new name upon it. That is the mystery. That is the miracle. That is the power of transformation in the quiet.